All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of Average Joe's. This week we're making bacon. We're gonna hopefully try some new things, learn some new things, and point out some stuff on the way. So come with me and we'll show you how. So first, we had a bunch of questions. One is bacon that you cure yourself, does it taste better than stuff that you buy in the store? We're gonna find out. Does curing with nitrates and nitrites taste different than curing without nitrates and nitrites? We're going to find that out. What about cost? So this baby right here that we picked up at Oscar's down in Ogden today, 44 bucks. So that comes in at about $3.72 a pound. That's not bad, but I don't know how much of that weight will make it to the finished product. Some of that's going to get dried and evaporate and get cut off as fat. Maybe there's skin. I don't even know what's under this package. And this guy over here, I picked up at Walmart, some pretty nice stuff, $6.33 a pound. Thick cut, hickory smoked, real wood smoked bacon. But this also, we'll talk about this, contains some sodium nitrates and other things. So we'll talk about that. We'll try to answer these questions. So first things first, I called the butcher down in Ogden and I said, do you guys have pork belly? They're like, we can get you pork belly. It'll take a couple of days. So I said, can I get a pork belly? They didn't ask me how much or what size, and I didn't know what to ask for. So I showed up today and I picked up my pork belly. I got 11.8 pounds of something, and I don't know what yet, but we're about to unwrap it and see. It's like opening a Christmas present. Oh, it's wrapped inside the wrap. Oh my goodness. So there it is, 11.8 pounds of meat. It does have the skin on top, so we'll have to go ahead and cut that off, and then we'll divide it into sections. All right, so since this guy's got the skin on, we're gonna go ahead and slowly but surely kind of peel that back and start to slice away and work it back and try to get all of this off. That way we get a good cure and we get a good smoke. Okay, so skin off, that took a few minutes. It looks like it was about exactly 1.5 pounds of skin. I probably got a little overzealous in places because it was tough and got a little bit more fat than I probably needed to, but either way, the skin's off. Wasn't terrible. Something to consider. If you're gonna buy a pork belly, make sure if you ask your butcher, maybe they can take the skin off for you, or just be prepared to do that. It works just fine. Just need a sharp knife and some time. Next, I'm going to divide this up into sections. I think 3 or 4 sections that I'm going to be able to fit in the vacuum sealer, in the vacuum seal bag. One section I'm going to just cure without nitrates, and the other sections I'm going to use just a normal cure. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this into sections. All right, so we got it cut into 5 equal pieces. We'll try to get some weights on these. One of these pieces probably I'll take and do just a traditional, not traditional, just a cure without nitrates in it. So brown sugar, salt, pepper, and that's about it really. And the rest we'll do with the curing stuff. So we'll start with the non-nitrate one and get that sealed up, ready to go. Okay, so for the first one, we've got 1 tablespoon of salt per pound. We've got 1/2 tablespoon of brown sugar per pound, and then we've got a teaspoon of black pepper per pound. So since we've got a 2-pound chunk in the scale ready to go in, we just doubled that. So we ended up going 2 tablespoons of salt, 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, and then 2 teaspoons of the black pepper. So we're just going to make sure we rub this in really good. Try to get as much of it on there as we can. Remember, this is no nitrates added, so this is about as close to natural bacon as you're going to get, I suppose. And then when we cook it up, we'll see the difference. I think the biggest difference we'll see is that sodium nitrate and some of those other things do add, they call it pinking salt for a reason, because it keeps that meat a pink color. I'm guessing we're going to see some of that meat turn gray when we cook it as opposed to pink, but we'll see. Okay, so for these last 4 sections, we've got the one that we did without the cure. Now we're going to use a cure, which is, we're going to use this Morton Tender Quick, which has everything you need in it. It's got salt, it's got sugar, it's got sodium nitrate. You can see on the ingredient list over here, it's got the preservatives and everything in it. And then on top of that, we're going to add something to it. So for this first round, we're going to go brown sugar. So we got 4 tablespoons of brown sugar because we've got 4 pounds of meat, and then 4 tablespoons of the cure. And we're going to rub both of those chunks in the mixture. Make sure we get them good and coated. For the cure, get all the sides equally. All right, so the next one we're going to do the cure, so the Morton Tender Quick plus maple syrup. So that maple syrup should be a good one. But again, it's the same. It's 2 pounds of meat in this section, so we put 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and we're going to do 2 tablespoons of the Tender Quick. And so what we're going to do is we're going to try to get that maple syrup to just cover this really good, so that the Tender Quick, the curing salt, will again stick to all surfaces of the meat without clumping up. Okay, so maple syrup rubbed in, and we put the 2 tablespoons of the Tender Quick on there. Now we just want to make sure we can mop all that stuff up, get it good and covered on all sides. All right, so this last section, about 2 1/4 pounds, we're going 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of the curing salt, and a black pepper. So we're going to get that rubbed into this. Mix it up real good. A little bit of that residual maple syrup in our big ass bowl, but that's okay, because I think that a little bit of carryover is probably going to make that even better. So we'll just try to, again, mop up as much as we possibly can. So we're going to use the vacuum sealer. We're not going to pull it down too tight, just going to get a good seal on that, because over the course of the next days, this is going to, generate moisture. We're going to flip it, we're going to turn it, we're going to want to rub it. So we need a little bit of play in that bag, but I'm just going to use these just because it fits pretty well, and we can get a good seal on there. So first up is this is the non-cured. So we'll label these as well when we're done, so we can keep track. So there we go, good seal. We've got we'll label this to make sure we can keep track, but again, this is the one that we didn't use the curing salt in, the nitrates. Label it, and we'll go ahead and do the rest. Right, so there we go. We've got these guys in the bags, the no nitrate. So that's the one we did the brown sugar, the pepper, salt. We've got the cure plus the pepper ready to go. We've got 2 of these, cure plus the brown sugar ready to go. And we've got the cure plus the maple ready to go. About 2 1/4 pounds each. What we're going to do is we're going to pop them in the fridge, and every day we'll turn them over. We'll give them a little massage. We'll take care of them. We'll make sure they make it through the course. On the 7th day, we will smoke these. Actually, let me go back. On day 6, we'll probably pull them out of these wrappers and set them on a rack in the fridge and let them air dry. We'll talk a little bit more about that on day 6. But in the meantime, every day between now and then, I'm going to be flipping these guys, getting them ready to go. So far so good. Hang in there. We're going to get to the end. It's going to be amazing. All right, so we're about 7 days in. They've been curing in the fridge. We've been flipping them every day and kind of massaging them. I thought it was kind of interesting too. The one with the no nitrate cure versus the one that came off. Look at the amount of moisture that was drawn out on the one that was that has the nitrate. So interesting. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and cut these open, wash all this stuff off, let them set, re-season the ones that are seasoned, and put them on the smoker. Okay, so we got them washed off. We're gonna let them air dry for a little while, and we're gonna pop them on the smoker. Another cool thing is you can kind of notice the color difference. So this one again is the one that we didn't use the nitrate to cure, but all these other ones that you use the nitrate cure, it's obviously very, very pink as opposed to the gray. So we'll see how it cooks up, what it does to the flavor. 4 of these are going on the smoker. One of them we're just gonna do in the oven and see how it compares. So Again, we'll let them dry off and then we'll load them up on the smoker. All right, so here we got everything pretty dried out. We've got the smoker up to 180 degrees. We're gonna go ahead and throw everything on there, except for this guy who's going in the oven. So we're ready to go. Leave those until they're about 150, 152 degrees, and then we'll pull them off. Same thing upstairs. We're gonna throw this guy in the oven. The oven's set for about 180 degrees. We're gonna leave it in there for however long it takes to get up to 150, 152 degrees. So pop her in. Well, guys, hot off the smoker, hot out of the oven. This guy, so I guess starting from this order, this was number one. This was the no nitrate pepper. Really smells peppery. Everything here smells good. I mean, the color looks good. It's a little bit darker. We'll see when we slice that up. Number two is the cure plus brown sugar. So again, looks pretty normal. I think we'll see differently when we cut it up. It is a little, maybe a little bit shaded different, but not much. And this is number four. So number three was the one we did in the oven. And this one was the, that had a cure plus the brown sugar. Kind of looks like a ham, really. We did slice the piece off. It looks a little bit, just because we had to try it and it was tasty. Back to number four. This is the cured with pepper. So these two are going to be, you know, one's going to be with the nitrates. This guy right here is going to have the nitrates. This guy's going to have no nitrates. And then last but not least, this is the cure plus maple flavoring. And each one of these, they all had brown sugar to begin with for the curing process. So what we're going to do is let these set in the refrigerator for, I don't know, as long as it takes, several hours, maybe overnight. And then tomorrow we're going to slice them and then we're going to try them. Super excited. Cool. Well, we did a overnight in the fridge. I actually put this in the freezer for about 35, 45 minutes and got it pretty far, but slicing really well. So I don't even know if that's necessary. I'll try it without it. This is the smoked cured maple, and we're slicing it up and it's going pretty well so far. I did have to cut it in half just because it was a little bit too long for the smoker, or for the slicer. But otherwise, we're getting some nice cuts of bacon. All right, so I don't know, about 30 or 40 minutes of slicing with the slicer, and we've got a mess of bacon. We've cut all of our, we used the 2.5 setting on the slicer, which gave us, it's not as thick as the stuff we want in the store. We could have gone thicker, but we cooked it up in the pan, and we thought we actually prefer it a little bit thinner because it crisps up nicer. So we've got all five of our different experiments together, sliced, and now what we're gonna do is side by side in the oven, go through, cook them all just as controlled as we can, the same length of time, the same temperature, the same rack. And we've got our 5 different cures that we did. And we've got our Walmart bacon on the end. We're gonna see how that holds up. So that's a smoked bacon with cure, with preservatives in it as well. And one thing we wanted to point out too was that number 1, this guy right here, was the one that didn't have any of the nitrate in it. We didn't use any of the curing stuff. So this is just salt, sugar mixture. And as you can see, it's pretty much similar, the same as the other bacon. So the flavor we tasted in the pan was also good. So again, I think what we're coming to is maybe you don't need all these preservatives if you're gonna either keep it in the freezer or eat it right away. But this will tell. This last bit of experiment will tell. So we'll let the oven warm up and we'll go from there. Okay, we've got it ready to go in. We've got all our sample bacons lined up. The oven about 385 degrees. We're just gonna go until it looks done. I forgot to add too that with the slicer, you get to like the butt ends, and this is kind of what we got. That's all besides what we ate while we were slicing. This is all we got left. So we decided to chop it, rough chop it into bigger pieces, and we can use that for other recipes like pork and beans or soups or whatever. So 0 waste so far, except for, yeah, 0 waste, except for the skin. All right, 385. It was exactly 25 minutes. We're going to pull it out. I think it's done enough for our test. Let that cool off for a quick second. Then we'll go through it. Okay, so coming out of the oven, they're still pretty hot, starting to cool down a little bit. But first, let's talk about how they look and the differences. So number one is the no nitrate with pepper, which is the same as the cure. Number four, this is the only difference is one has cure with the nitrates, also has pepper. What you're going to see though is some different cook levels, right? And part of that is due to the thinness of the slice itself. And with the Walmart bacon, obviously, I think to me it looks pinker. We'll talk about those preservatives that go into that bacon. It also doesn't crisp up as much because it was a thicker cut. So we chose to go with a thinner cut for ours because we like to get that crisp faster. I think another contributing factor on the store-bought bacon is that when they cure, they actually inject water. Sometimes that takes a lot longer to cook off. Also, I think you can notice that more when you cook it in a pan. It tends to spatter more as that water is released. So another difference between, your store-bought bacons and your homemade bacon. So let's taste them, starting with sample number one. So this is the no nitrate, just the pepper crusted bacon. That's good. It's got good flavor. There's nothing bad about that, nothing objectionable. It's salty, but not overly salty. I don't pick up a ton of pepper on that one, but I think it's delicious. Okay, moving along to number two. This is the cure, right? So this is the one where we did the rub cure and all that stuff, and then we just added brown sugar to this one. So let's see what flavors we get here. That's good. Funny enough, I like number one better. For some reason, this one has less flavor. Maybe this one came across as saltier. This one feels a little less salty, which seems strange. They're both good. There's nothing bad. I don't pick up any sweetness. I don't pick up any other flavor other than meat in number two. So again, going back on one and two, coming up on number three, this is the one that we did in the oven. So this is a traditional cure with the nitrates. It's got brown sugar added, but the difference was it was cooked in the oven. To be honest, since this only smoked for a couple hours, 2.5 hours, I think it was total, these aren't giving me a lot of smoke flavor. So let's try this oven one and see what it does. It's good. I'm not picking up any sweetness. It didn't pick up any of that brown sugar sweetness. The texture is good. No smoky flavor, but now that I eat the one from the oven, if I went back, I bet I would pick up. Now that I feel the difference, I bet I would pick up a smoky flavor on the first two. So all three, good so far. Okay, on to number four, which is the same as number one. So they both were rubbed with pepper, but this one was cured with nitrates. This one was not used, didn't use any of the nitrates. So let's give this a try. I'm getting a little bit more pepper on this one, which is good because it's got a little bit more, you can see the pepper on the crust a little bit more, which is good. The texture is also different because it's a much thinner slice. So it's pretty tasty so far. I mean, nothing about these four is setting itself apart from the others. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So on to number five. This is the cure plus maple. So we put a lot of maple syrup on there and let it sit for the 7 days and see how it tastes. Maybe there's just the smallest hint of maple flavor in there. Not a ton, certainly not. Oh, there it is. There it was. It came on a little bit late for me, and it's tasty. I kind of like that. It doesn't taste, again, like one and two. It doesn't taste very smoky, but certainly there's some maple in there. Last but not least is our Walmart bacon. So again, I think we pointed out the fact that, just our perception that it's pinker. It looks pinker to us, to me, but it also didn't cook the same because this is a really thick slice. We could have done a thicker slice. We chose a thinner slice. So let's give this a try. Loaded with smoke flavor. And again, I assume that it's not a smoke flavor that's added. It says hickory smoked bacon. So it is. It's definitely that spent some time in a smoker, apparently, because it tastes a lot smokier. So You know, some things we can do differently, right? We can cure longer to see if we can impart more flavor with more time in a cure, with a wet cure even, as opposed to a dry cure. We can dry it longer before we smoke it, and we can even smoke it lower and slower. So there's a lot of things we can do to try to change in the future. To be honest with you, the homemade bacon, it's delicious. It's really good. But if you want more of this flavor that you get from these store-bought smoked stuff, I think, you know, maybe we could change some things in our process. But for bacon in 7 days from a pork belly, I think that's pretty good. You know what? Sometimes average is good enough. So go out there and try some bacon. Well, you know what Average Joe always says, when life hands you bacon, you make yourself a breakfast sandwich. So there it is, guys. A little bacon, egg, and cheese. That's going to be good with that fresh bacon on it. Oh, yeah.